everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, CardHoarder.com, Alter Sleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like you. I'm Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey, guys.
Reuben Bressler.
Oh, good evening. How's it going?
Just a few tiny things happened today. Small nuggets to talk about.
Well, for once in our life, we have a busy episode.
We have a very busy. Now, if you missed our pre-show, subscribers to this channel get access to our NSFW version early. You could be a Patreon, and our $5 plus patrons get access to those pre-shows, even the pre-shows before we start streaming. All the good stuff. And we kick it off with our first pick in our giveaway. Get your chance of $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com by typing !raffle in the chat. But sub first to get two chances to win and support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight. That is thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. All right. Kamigawa. Neon Dynasty previews. The big preview day happened today. I've been waiting for this day. I've been waiting a long time, like 10 plus years. I have been like, please, could we just please think about going back to Kamigawa? It was 2005 or something. My God, it's been a long time. And I have been absolutely loving every little like hint. The story is amazing. The artwork is unbelievable. Like we got to see today, the focus on enchantments and artifacts, and like enchantments are kind of the old school stuff, like the traditional Kamigawa, and the artifacts and whatnot are going to be the new stuff and the powered up stuff. Like they're doing DJ hands with DJ hands. I need DJ hands in my Kamigawas, and I got it, and it's wonderful. And there's a lot to talk about, and in some ways I don't even know where to start. Like, what do you guys like the most so far?
I just love. There's so many there. You're right. There's so many things to love. I will name a few things to love. One is the combination of old and new. I think it's very clever to put enchantments as old and artifacts as new, and to use Kamigawa as the backdrop motif of arguing against of evolution versus tradition. I think that is a very clever way to return. I love the cyberpunk aesthetic. I think that Blade Runner magic, it was something we were going to do. And this is so natural of a transition that it felt perfect. It doesn't feel forced at all. I love the callbacks. Everything that's being called back to, also doesn't feel forced. It's not ham-fisted. And all of the keywords and all of the abilities and all of the cycles that we've seen so far also don't feel forced. Like we complained about cleave. We complain about multi-kicker, right? Like we complain about, this feels a little clunky. Nothing in Kamigawa feels clunky to me.
Nerd Girl?
No, I definitely agree. So far, like I have not kept up on the spoilers nearly as much as you guys, but I am seeing a ton of things that are good for what the fans want from this set. And I do like that. And that's everything from the art to the creature types to the style of the cards, the abilities. I think so far they're doing a great job from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's so we're going to get started as we often do when they do the big preview days. We picked 3 cards each to chitter chatter about. My first card that I chose here was the fact that like Wizards, Strixhaven was a wizard school set, right? Like it was a wizard. You don't say the H word, you don't say the P word, because Harry ain't got Potter and nothing to do with Strixhaven. No. And we certainly know that there would never be a teenage or a mutant or a ninja turtle in our game. Yeah, Splinter is here. He is the Silver Fur Master. You know it's Splinter. It's okay. I know they can't officially say it is, but you know it is. It's a black and blue. For a uncommon 2/2 rat ninja with ninjutsu of a black and a blue, meaning pay a black and a blue, return an unblocked attacker you control to hand, put this card onto the battlefield from your hand tapped and attacking. Ninjutsu abilities you activate cost 1 generic mana less to activate, and other ninja and rogue creatures you control get +1/+1. And I will say, they have noted that a turtle ninja does exist in this set.
Yep.
As there should.
Oh my gosh. I cannot believe it. I did not know a turtle ninja exists.
Please
That
have
was
4
part
different
of
versions.
Morrow's blog.
Please have 4 different versions with the 4 different, colors.
Colors?
Just,
Oh.
please
You can
do
play
it for
4
me.
copies, so you can get them altered. Like we
Yes.
used to have our Sakura Tribe Elders.
It's true.
I mean, we've had rat ninjas before.
Right.
I
But this is the
believe
Lord, right? This is the Lord.
This is the Lord, exactly. This is the one that will pump your other ninjas. I am somewhat disappointed that in Morrow's blog he said we would get a ninja turtle, and it's not a mutant ninja turtle, but I'll take what I can get. This card is really
we don't want
good.
another Pusheen fiasco on our hands.
Also true. Also true. Yeah.
They can fly so close to the sun. That's all.
Right.
They're so close.
But yeah, this card is quite good. I mean, I don't foresee us living in a world where it's another blue-black rogues situation. But this is a very powerful card.
I'm just saying, somebody at Wizards better have at least made that one phone call of can we do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Secret Lair?
Yeah.
If it's a no, it's a no, but they better have asked that question. That's all I'm saying. For my second card here, this is one of the big story arcs. This is one of the big story arcs that's going across from set to set. It's one of the giant sort of iconic cards of the set. The set has been so leaky and weird, and every leak that came out looked worse than the one before it. And it got to the point where this one was not only leaked by a potato, it was leaked in Phyrexian, and people were trying like hell to put it together before it showed up this morning as Jin-Gitaxias Progress Tyrant. This thing is 2 blue, 5 generic mana for a mythic 5/5 legendary Phyrexian Praetor. Whenever you cast an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability only triggers once each turn. A copy of a permanent spell becomes a token, of course. Whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant, or sorcery spell, counter that spell, and this ability only triggers once each turn. So this is a card that reads amazingly well, really cool, no doubt about it, when you also have to realize that in some ways it's a 7 mana. I'm not doing too much if you have 2 spells in hand, so there's some payout when you get to finally untap.
I mean, it protects itself, right? It does not necessarily die to Doomblade because the first Doomblade gets countered.
It's true, rather.
So, this reads a lot like an Elish Norn to me, not just because it's 7 mana, but because Elish Norn didn't really matter against some decks and was a complete and utter game-ending house against some decks. Jin-Gitaxias is very similar to me. It is irrelevant. It's actually irrelevant against the decks that Elish Norn is good against, right? And vice versa. So I see this as a really fun card, a really interesting card, but it is also a 7 mana sorcery speed creature. So I don't know if it's got the legs for constructed, but if it comes down and resolves, boy howdy.
Possibly not. So that's the thing about some of these bigger creatures is that oftentimes they're not very good in let's say standard. But once you start to get these things where you can cheat them into play and do cool stuff and ramp into things, then you start to see these things get really interesting.
Yeah, I want to reanimate this card. I don't want to pay 7 for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me remind you of a little card called Arayo, Soratami Ascendant. This guy is banned in Commander. It was a blue and a generic mana for a legendary 1/1 Moonfolk Monk that had flying. And whenever the 4th spell of a turn is played, you flip it. And that's any 4 spells. If you just tag along with somebody else who's going on a chain of 3, you flip it into Arayo's Essence, which countered the first spell played by each opponent each turn, which reads a little similar. Not exactly. But this to me feels like a callback to Arayo's Essence.
I 100% agree. Definitely feels like an Arayo send up.
So my third and final card here is the giant story spoiler, the one that just it turns the screw of the story and it cranks it into high gear. Give me a some sort of metaphor here. The point is that when this reveal came, a shock wave blew out from MTG Twitter, blew out from MTG Reddit. All of a sudden, one of my most popular tweets where I explained that if it wasn't shocking, then Wizards would have failed. You're not going to take Tamiyo, or Tamiyo rather. Tamiyo is amazing. She's incredible. Well, the Phyrexians got her, and they completed her, and she ain't gonna be Tamiyo no more, and that's incredible. And the fact that they did that and it was shocking is amazing. And Wizards, they did the right thing. They got that emotional pull out of us.
So what does the card do?
The card does. Tamiyo, Completed Sage, is a blue, a green, 2 generic mana, and I'm sorry, is that a hybrid blue-green Phyrexian mana symbol?
Yeah,
okay.
That's a wild mana symbol.
Oh my god. So this mythic legendary planeswalker has Compleated, which says the blue/green Phyrexian mana symbol can be paid with either blue, green, or 2 life. If life was paid, which meant you only paid 4 mana instead of 5 mana for it, this planeswalker enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters. And this being an entire mechanic, this being Phyrexian mana hybrid, this being we're headed towards Phyrexian stuff as we know it, feels like we're going to get more completed planeswalkers as we move forward. The point is, +1, you tap up to 1 target artifact or creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. -X, exile target non-land permanent card with mana value X from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card. And for -7, you create Tamiyo's Notebook, which is a legendary colorless artifact token with spells you cast cost 2 generic mana less to cast, and tap, draw a card. A lot. It does a lot, but it does.
Yeah. So there's a couple things I want to talk about. One is this is a 4 mana planeswalker that comes down with 3 loyalty. When you pay the 2 life, that is quite good. That is on curve with your explorers or your incubation druids or whatever it is you want to do. It immediately ticks up and takes out whatever they have that's good. Usually your opponent's only going to have 1 major threat by turn 3 in the game.
All right. And
this is going to be able to shut that down immediately, and indefinitely, which is wild. In addition, it's going to be able to get copies of itself back from the graveyard if it needs to. Or other planeswalkers, because it says any permanent. The ultimate is a little underwhelming. The ultimate is just an artifact that can be destroyed, and I guess it draws a card the turn you play it. But it's very powerful. This card is very good.
But it continues to draw cards.
Yes. I mean, if the artifact survives, yeah. It's not like it's an emblem.
I mean, a lot of times that's going to be difficult to deal with, especially in standard or something like that.
Well, not when we talk about one of the cards I'm talking about. Everyone's going to have
this guy here.
Everybody's going to have 4 of this main deck, you think?
This guy segues.
Maybe.
That's all I'm saying. This guy.
All right.
Guy's a seguer. Well, it's also all right. Well, so Reuben, go ahead and tell us about your first card because it's important.
Yeah, I think that this is the card I saw and was like, oh, this is the format. This is the card of the format. Boseiju Who Endures is a green legendary land that comes into play untapped.
Oh, snap.
It's a legendary land that comes into play untapped and taps for a green. It also has Channel. Channel is making a return from the original Kamigawa. Channel is a reminder text. So the ability is 1 generic and 1 green mana and discard Boseiju, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land an opponent controls. That player may search the library for a land with a basic land type, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control.
Oh my god.
So it is sort of like a abrupt decay, sort of like I mean, it's naturalized, but it's also can take out certain lands. The fact that you're able to go search for your Fetid Pools or your Ralgrin Triomes or your Underground Seas in older formats is a little bit of a drawback because they have those types, but it's not so much of a drawback that you're not going to want to get rid of your Tamiyo's notebooks, your giant artifacts, your crazy vehicles, and so forth. Also, the drawback of this being a legendary land means that the first one gets to be a land, and then the rest can be a removal if you so choose.
That is nice. It's kind of like the legendaries that are like modals, right, that we see sometimes. So you actually can use them in, it's less punishing for drawing multiples. I do like that.
Now, I think this card is absolutely bananas. The fact that it costs 1 mana when you have a legendary creature out is insane. Now, correct me, feel free for those in chat, please let me know if I'm wrong here. You can go find those dual lands. That's what you're talking about, right? You can go find the Fetid Pools
find dual lands.
because it has a basic land type on it.
It has a basic land type.
It isn't a basic land, which again is fine, and that actually keeps it from going completely insane in older formats. My only real kind of concern here is that, I heard a lot for many years from Wizards whenever the power level concerns would be thrown up again and again. They would say, well, we've still never gotten past Moxes, right? We've still never gotten past free mana. Well, one of the other things they kept saying was that we've still never gotten past a land that's better than a basic land.
Sure.
And I would argue this is better than a basic forest.
Nope.
It's a small hint, it's a teeny small back because it's non-basic. But it's hard to argue you don't just throw one of these in your green decks, right? Because
you throw one in your green decks.
Well, because I'm talking about Commander. I'm saying in Constructed, it's going to be fine, and we are Constructed people. I'm talking about in terms of a casual format, that's just like a straight better forest. 9.9 times out of 10. Maybe you'll get burned with Price of Progress or something, but okay.
Yeah. The question is, does this automatically replace a forest? In every Commander deck that runs green? It's an interesting question. I mean, there are some Commander decks that I foresee where you want, well, for example, Nissa Who Shakes the World style forest decks, and also 5-color decks that only want to run 1, maybe 2 of each basic land. Maybe not. But everything else in between, for example, in my Arcades, the Strategist deck, I have 6 forests. This is 100% going to replace one.
I mean, this being a activated ability and not an actual spell, I mean, it gets around Chalice of the Void. It stops you can't counter this unless you have a very, a stifle effect, which is...
It destroys Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, it does, and that's incredible.
In your Rug Delver deck.
Yeah, so tell us about your second card.
I mean, I could talk about Boseiju all night, but we'll move on to another very excellent and good child, Goro-Goro. Goro-Goro, Disciple of Ryusei, is a 2/2 Goblin Samurai.
Nice.
Legendary creature. What an excellent boob this one is. Generic and a red for a 2/2 with 2 activated abilities. Pay a red, creatures you control gain haste until the end of the turn. That's not nothing.
It's true.
And 3 generic red, create a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying. Activate only if you control an attacking modified creature. Modified creatures are equipment, auras you control, and counters. Those count as modifications. So if you have an attacking creature with an aura on it that you control, an equipment that you control or your opponent controls, I guess, or counters of any kind.
Well, it'd be one that you control, right? Because it's a modified creature you.
Well, if you attack with the modified creature, I mean, there are very corner case scenarios where you can control a creature that has your opponent's equipment on it.
That's fair. Or auras or whatever.
Or your opponent's tokens on it or counters on it, if they've given them a -1/-1 counter. But in any case, even just a 2/2 for 2 where you pay a red and get haste every turn is good enough. The end game of making dragons also very powerful. All for the low cost of a 2/2, and oh, by the way, it's a goblin, so it goes in goblins.
Nice. I mean, I will take a sweet goblin creature, and I'll take things that make dragons. They've kind of had the 2 mana thing that makes dragons for a little bit. There was that one from Kaldheim.
The
Bonkin something or other, I think. And again, these are the cards that I feel like they read pretty cool, but I need one to really be good. And maybe this is it. Maybe there's a special equipment aura bonus thing you put together. It makes them hard to block or whatever, and suddenly out come the dragons.
Yeah, there is a few that make little dudes that make them, right? We had a 2/2 first striker that boasted for dragons. We have the Dragon Outcast that was a landfall type. Yep. Not landfall, but 6 mana or more, sort of like a dragon scoot, which was kind of cool.
Scoot dragon.
And then there's the Dragonkin Berserker that, or is that the Boast one?
That was
I thought there was another one in addition to that, but you're right. There are a number of 1/1s and 2/2s that can make 5/5 dragons.
So we want to get a little bit, just a taste of what Umezawa's Jitte did to standard Magic the Gathering.
We get a little bit. You can have a little Umezawa as a treat with the life of Toshiro Umezawa. The life of Toshiro Umezawa is a generic into black for an uncommon saga. This cycle of uncommon 2-mana sagas, I think, are all quite good. This one says, for chapters 1 and 2, you get to choose one, and you might recognize these three abilities from Umezawa's Jitte. Target creature gets +2/+2 till the end of the turn. Target creature gets -1/-1 until the end of the turn, or you gain 2 life. That's very nice. It's very cute. It feels good for me to read those things together. Chapter 3 is that you exile the saga and return it to the battlefield transformed as Memory of Toshiro, which is a 2/3 enchantment creature human samurai. So you're going to get your enchantment triggers. If you tap it and pay a life, you get a black mana that the mana can only be spent to cast an instant or sorcery spell.
This card's sweet.
Yeah.
Card's very good. Yeah.
For 2 mana, it's already above rate. If you kill a thing, you're feeling amazing. You're getting in for some extra damage. And the worst case scenario is you've gained 4 life to mitigate the cost on the backside to help you ramp into some of your bigger, scarier spells. And it's a 2/3 for 2 mana. That's good in any type of deck, including limited.
And triggering all the enchantment things and the constellation stuff that you want to. Like, it's sweet. I like it a lot.
Card's great.
All right. And that was your final preview. Nerd Girl, what's your first?
So mine was kind of given to me by you guys for my little pre-show story, and that's the Spirited Companion. Yeah. This is a little...
it's a good boy.
We've been getting a cute little dog in each set, and this is the one we get here. It's a 1/1 for 2 mana. It's an enchantment creature dog, and when Spirited Companion enters the battlefield, draw a card. So it automatically replaces itself. It's not a super relevant creature type, but it is kind of adorable, and anytime you sort of have usually they're flying, but they're also 1 extra mana. We had the Thopter Poop 3 colorless to draw a card for a 1/1 flyer. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, you're right.
From
Sky Thopter something.
Yeah, Scatter Thopter or something.
Yeah. So we get some of those in limited quite common, and they're usually pretty good. This will be really nice with any like sacrifice mechanics. So yeah, there's some definitely good options here.
I mean, Elvish Visionary in white is a lot. And
that's the bottom line.
Yeah, the funny part is that the creature type is important, but it's not actually the creature type, it's the card type. The enchantment part is what makes it absolutely amazing. It's going to be terrific in the Enchantress decks. It's going to be terrific in any decks like the Blink stuff and Ephemerate stuff, which is great. And it's more sort of pushed card draw in white. You don't have to pay like the white tax because it's in white anymore.
They've given us, they are slowly but surely letting white have what green got a decade ago, which is creature-based card draw.
Yeah.
We had the Priest of Forgotten Lore that was just a straight-up draw card. This is very similar.
We had the Vampire in the last
Welcoming
set.
Vampire, yep. That's another good one.
Right.
And yeah, it's a 2-mana 1/1 that draws a card. It's all you needed to do. And also, I'm very pleased with the few dogs that we've gotten in this set that they have leaned into the memification of dogs, especially in Japanese culture. This one, of course, is a very good Doge, Shiba Inu, and then the 6-mana Tanuka, the raccoon dog, is also an excellent inclusion.
Yeah, sweet trash panda. Look, if there is a mandate that there has to be a super cute doggo in every set, yes, but
please.
But always give them to Nerd Girl. She's right there.
Yeah, so that's why I brought this up in the pre-show, is that I've had the last 2 like puppy cards. So I was like, oh, I didn't get a preview card. There must not be any cute dogs in the set. And then they posted this and I was like, oh, I guess I'm not the dog girl.
Oh,
I was sad.
What's your second card?
So my second card is, I figured you guys were going to cover a lot of the crazy bombs and the things that were going to be good in Eternal formats. And this still might be, but this is definitely something that's going to define an archetype in Limited. And it's an archetype I typically like to play. I'm going to let Reuben correct me here because you say card names much better than I do. Jukai Naturalist?
You did it.
Hey! This is a 2/2 bear for green and a white. So just some Silesia goodness. This is an enchant human monk. So it covers all of the bases. It's got a relevant creature type. It's an enchantment. It also has a lifelink for bear stats, which is really nice. And enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less. This is, for an uncommon, an all-around all-star. I think it's going to be good in limited, and it's going to see some play in constructed as well.
I mean, I 100% agree.
I'm building insane. Standard enchantments. We're doing this. Like,
yeah.
4 of automatically.
Isn't there's a new enchantress as well? Sythesis or Sixthus?
That was from Historic.
Was that from Historic?
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Modern
in
Horizons,
any case,
Jumpstart Horizons.
This is good on turn 2. Obviously, it's a 2/2 bear. This is good on turn 3 because it gives you a 2-drop after you play this. For example, your Spirited Companion. So you're able to play this. This fills multiple slots in the curve. Not to mention the fact that you just play it on turn 3 and then turn 2, and then turn 3 you play a 4-drop, right? Like a traditional mana ramper. This card's very, very good.
Nice. And what is your final card?
My final card, I mixed it up. I put in a common. So this is actually a kind of one of the sagas that I thought kind of stood out to me a little bit. It's going to be not overly powerful, but something that I'm very much looking forward to playing. And I think it's a good example of what these sagas can do without feeling like they are ruining the limited format. And that is the Modern Age. This blue 2-mana saga says for chapter 1 and 2, you draw a card, then discard a card. So it's going to help you fix your hand early, get you to your mana, things like that. But it's also a good play late because you're going to get to cycle through some of your excess lands and things. And then on the final stage, you exile it and return it to the battlefield transformed, and it turns into a 2/3 flyer that you only paid 2 mana for. So if you need the creature now, it's not going to quite get you there, but it's going to fix your hand, it's going to filter your hand, and then give you a body at the end that's evasive. I like this card a lot.
And that Vector Glider is just really adorable. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
It's kind of
cute.
It's super cute.
We're getting common sagas, which is really interesting to me. I assume we're going to get one of each color. We've only seen the red, the white, and the blue so far.
Makes sense.
Of those 3, the Modern Age is far and away the best. I mean, looting is insane. You know, if you told me that I got to loot twice and on the end of it I would get a 2/3 flyer, I would expect that for 2 mana. I would expect that to be an uncommon.
And it's not rummaging. It's not discard and then draw. You draw and then discard. So like, it's so good.
So this card is extremely good. I would not be shocked if this saw constructed play, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's it has all the right numbers in many, many ways. Let's see here. Was there anything else we wanted to touch on? We didn't touch on exactly all of the new mechanics. I wanted to bring those up here just for a second.
Yeah, let's talk about some. If we missed any mechanics, we talked about modified. Oh, we didn't talk about reconfigure.
Reconfigure is the big one. This thing is crazy. We now have artifact creatures that are also equipment. So we have a Simian Sling here, for example, for 1 red mana. It's a 1/1 artifact creature equipment monkey. That's right. It's a shoulder monkey. And the equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever Simian Sling or equipped creature becomes blocked, it deals 1 damage to defending player. You can reconfigure it for 2 generic mana. For 2 generic mana, you can attach it to target creature you control or unattach it from a creature, reconfigure only as a sorcery. While attached, this is not a creature. So it's like it's an equipment and it's a creature. It's equipped creature. It's best of both worlds. It slices, it dices. It's country and Western. Here we are. Perfect.
This is going to be the most equipment I run in limited. There has been a few sets, like there was the one where you could, your equipment, Kaldheim, right? Kaldheim, your equipment came into play if you like kicked it with a creature, and those were pretty good. But in general, we don't play a ton of these in limited. And I'm really excited to get to see these sort of flex cards where it's like, I can pump my deck full of these sweet equipments with very little downside because you can I equip a monkey onto a monkey? Like, that's going to be so cute.
It's monkeys all the way down.
It's like the little barrel of monkeys.
It's a barrel of monkeys.
It is a barrel of monkeys. Oh, I am sad that we are almost certainly not going to get a parrot to be a parrot on a pirate's shoulder in the ninjas set. But the fact that Reconfigure exists gives me hope for the future. But in general, I think that Reconfigure is genius. I think that We had Living Artifact. We had those kicker artifacts that came down with other creatures in Kaldheim. We've had a couple of ways we've also had vehicles, right? Vehicles are just trying to be equipment that are trying to be in your deck, right? With fewer little downside.
Right. Like
they finally tried this.
Yeah. Well, we can't not mention the reality chip.
Yeah.
This card is insane. It's also very important to the story. It's the thing that let the Wanderer not just planeswalk all over the place, but I guess she lost it, but whatever. The reality chip is a blue and generic mana for it. This type line, God almighty.
I love this type line.
Legendary.
One of my favorite all-time type lines.
This is insane. Legendary artifact creature, equipment, jellyfish, wizards. Just tip the hat, everybody.
Yeah.
For a blue generic mana, it's an 0/4. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. As long as it's attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. And you reconfigure it for divination mana for a blue and 2 generic mana. You can attach it and unattach it as you see fit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's some good type lines in this set. We've got a legendary creature Shrine, which is excellent. We've got equipment Monkey Pirate, or equipment Monkey, equipment Jellyfish. We're going to get Ninja Turtle. We've got some really excellent type line combos in this set.
Yeah, we have some excellent. I think we covered basically the rest of them. We even talked about Channel when we went to the Boseiju. So, and also Channel of all the mechanics. I really didn't expect Channel to be coming back, but I like it. I love the fact that it gives them the sort of freedom to print legendary lands, right? They didn't like making legendary lands. This gives them a free and out to do so. It's well, you can run 3 or 4. Just Channel. It's fine. Yeah. All right. Well, that was awesome. And I look forward to more previews as we're going to get tons of them over the next week. So we'll have plenty to talk about next week. Moving out of here from the first pick to gather the townsfolk, thanks to our sponsor, cardhoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards from Magic Online. Moving on here to gathering the townsfolk, where we also had BT Dubs, a giant banned and restricted announcement the same week. Whew. The fun don't stop, as it were, because with this little announcement, they changed a lot. In standard, Alrund's Epiphany is banned. GG, get out, you won't be missed. Divide by Zero is banned, and Faceless Haven is banned. Also huge in Legacy, Ragavan Nimble Pilferer out of here. And in Historic, Memory Lapse was officially banned, so you got those wild cards. And Teferi Time Raveler has been rebalanced and unbanned, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Basically, oh my god, Standard and Legacy will not be the same.
I did not see the Divide by Zero. I mean, I don't hate it, but I did not see it coming. I mean, I would have thought that they would have gotten rid of one of the things that pairs very well with it before getting rid of basically the common or whatever. So yeah, that's interesting. And it simultaneously also kind of nerfs. So if they would have taken Lobster or Lear and banned those instead and maybe made it so that way the deck couldn't have both of those things in the deck. But choosing to do the Divide by Zero is really interesting because it kind of nerfs the lessons package. You have a lot less good ways to get lessons, which is ultimately going to put a hurt on whether those are good in the format.
I think you saw with the Alchemy change to Divide by Zero why Divide by Zero was banned. Does that make sense, right? Because Liar could still protect itself,
right?
When it shouldn't, quote unquote, but it still could,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we'll start with the easy ones and go to the harder ones. I don't remember if I officially made this a pie bet, but I'm pretty sure I said Alrund's Epiphany is getting banned in January of next year. I'm pretty sure I said 1 year later.
Wow.
On this show. Someone can go check me.
If someone checks this, I would love.
Because it happened with Uro, and it happened with another card where they waited for the card to dominate for a calendar year, and then they were stopped selling packs, and then banned it. I'm pretty sure I said these exact words. But it obviously needed to go, and it should have been banned 6 months ago. I think that Faceless Haven is an easy ban in the same sense that as soon as you take X card out of the format, Y begins to dominate. I think Faceless Haven is the easiest one to pull out from under the rug of the mono-colored aggro decks. Mm-hmm. And so I'm happy for that one to go away. I'm really torn on Divide by Zero. I don't know if I like that it got banned. For what Nerd Girl said, I think that it was interesting and good for the control packages to have access to that sideboard of options. I think that the shift from Lear, or the alchemy shift of Lear to only be able to be used on your own turn fixed the problem, which means that maybe it should have just been Lear that got banned. Because then you had Fading Hope and you had Divide by Zero that were able to protect the Lear. So I'm torn. I'm torn on Divide by Zero. I'm okay with it, but
I think it's 100% correct. I hate that card. I think it's the best remand of all time. It was really annoying. It was basically
remand
time
is
walk.
The best remand of all time.
It was yeah, it's the second best, right? So it's the second best remand of all time, being not remand, but it's also remand that went and found a 7-drop that made you 3 creatures. Like that's just, it's a lot for 1 extra mana, and the fact that you could rebuy it to save Lear again and again was
It
insane.
is, but control decks don't tend to have those top-end packages, and if Mascot Exhibition is their top-end package, if they ban Lobster and Lear or whatever, or pieces of that puzzle, then they will need that top-end.
I guess if they're allowed to keep Hullbreaker Horror, then that at least forces them to put a 7-drop in their deck as opposed to having it just in their sideboard.
Yeah, which I'm fine with. I think either option is a feasible thing to help balance the format. I'm just surprised that this was the option that they took. The only thing I want to say really quick before we move on is I like that the fact that they kind of pinched at both ends. So they got rid of the Alrund's Epiphany to kind of lower the value of the control decks, but they also cut an important key piece out of the monocolor decks. Now we get to go to the middle and maybe mid-range and multicolor, like, some mid-range Selesnya, mid-range Rakdos. Maybe they will start to shine because they're no longer forced to be playing these snowlands that was, keeping them out of the business.
Yeah, maybe Chariot is good again, maybe.
I mean, we'll see. I think the other really interesting, banning obviously was Legacy with Ragavan, Nimble Pilfer. This was a huge question mark of, like, they did not ban it out of Modern. They banned nothing out of Modern. And
that was the bigger surprise to me.
And sometimes it's what they don't ban that gets a lot of conversation. And Aaron Forsyth tweeted that, they have been looking at it, and from their perspective, and they have the data, that the format seems fine. And I will remind people that there was a point in time in which Delver of Secrets was ruling standard, but its win rate was not. It was good. People didn't like to play against it. They hated losing against it, but that doesn't mean it was as dominant as everyone kind of thought it was. And they never banned Delver, even though people felt that they should. And we had to wash so many tablecloths back in the day for SCG Live because people wrote F Delver in Sharpie on it. They would do that a lot.
Yeah, I was surprised that Luris didn't get the axe in Modern. I'm not terribly surprised that Ragavan got the axe in Legacy. I know we had a little bit of debate here about it.
Oh, that card is bananas, man.
The card's bananas, not just because it's a monkey pirate. But also because it was, the most similar card to it was Deathrite Shaman, which is you can answer it. It wasn't like it was an unanswerable phenomenon that just took over games by itself, but it shifted the metagame so far in a direction that it made other decks play differently and made other decks built differently.
This was a unique situation, unlike Epiphany, where there were no answers. There are answers in the format, but I'm guessing the reason that they want to get rid of this is because it's shifting the meta too far away from the core that they want, that they are used to, that they can balance around, that they have future sets being designed for, already coming down, the design path there. So, like, if all of the decks are being shifted to have to run shocks, 4 of main deck shock, then, like, they're going to be pricing out a lot of the other things that just can't make it.
What is that stupid Phyrexian mana card? The one that it counters a spell of
Mental Misstep?
Mental Misstep, thank you. I think what you would describe
Mental Misstep.
I know, right?
That was an awkward time for Legacy.
It was a horrible time. And I think one of the things you can say about it is you were to say, whenever the format becomes people are putting 4 of this Phyrexian mana card in their deck to stop the problem. Well, it used to be 4 Mental Misstep. Now it's 4 Gut Shot just to kill the stupid monkey. Your format's bad. Like, I think that's one of the like ways to be like, it's not like your format's broken. It just kind of means your format's bad because everyone has to do this because of what you did with that one drop.
I mean, there were decks. I mean, I saw Sneak and Show lists that had 4 Ragavan. Like,
why not?
Right? The deck was 4 Emrakul, 4 Gristlebrand, 4 Ragavan. And it's like, maybe our format shouldn't be doing this exactly. And that's kind of, that's the same feeling I got when I saw Mental Missteps in Goblins lists with no blue mana.
Right.
Right? Like, it's the same kind of deal where you look at a list and you go, this is not what a Magic deck should look like. Mm-hmm. And it's unhealthy for the metagame. It might not be dominant, but the fact that this is a deck that exists and is good means that the card is too good.
Now, Aaron Forsythe specifically said he's had a couple side chats with folks about Lurrus and Modern. It's only fair to be more open about this topic. It's the card that we discussed the most this cycle in regards to bans. People seem to want us to say that out loud, which I'll be honest, I think they do. I assume mostly to verify we're actually paying attention, ? For him, the problem with disclosing specific cards and decks that are close to the line with the potential to warp behavior, some folks will gravitate it and some folks will just ditch it if there's a whiff, you know what I mean? I'm not going to buy a blah, blah, expensive card because they're talking about banning it, He says he gets the desire for a watch list, but I think it does weird things. I agree.
Okay.
Formats have had watch lists in the past, and it hasn't really affected play so much.
Has it? Question mark, right? Like, I think there's, I think there's sort of, I don't know not microaggressions isn't the right way to say it, but like little things that like set people off and like little like sort of trigger things they're looking for of like,
there's observation bias. Obviously, if Aaron Forsythe says we're keeping an eye on Lurrus because it's too good, then everyone's step 0 is going to be, oh, well, now I should be playing Lurrus in Modern. But like, I get that. But also there are so many games are being played, particularly of the arena formats. Mm-hmm. That I don't think that bias matters.
I guess, again, like, so for example, he mentioned at one point, they have discussions about Splinter Twin. And how many sales does that spur of people like speculating it's going to come back and let's go buy a couple play sets just in case because he said the word twin, like people are weird, man. Let's see here. There was a huge, it's so big we can't go over the changes and I love it. You have no idea how many times over the years I've said like Wizards has done nothing but be jealous of all the other games. They can't change any of the cards after they leave the door. Well, by God, they're changing them now. Let's go.
Yep.
Wizards changed like 15 cards or something. Like, it is a lot.
Yeah. I like that they changed it. I like that you're a little excited because you were like, why aren't I getting weekly changes? You were on the very polar end of the spectrum there. But now that it's all said and done, I'm excited that you're excited.
I'm loving it. This is great. This is what I wanted. Like, being able to go back today and build the Venture into the Dungeon deck, have it play completely different. Like, it's not the greatest thing ever. I would even argue it's probably tier 2, tier 2.5 maybe, but it's a hell of a lot better than it used to be. It's way more interesting when Dungeon Descent costs 1 and not 4, for God's sake, to get
enters untapped.
And enters untapped, which is huge.
It's insane.
It's insane, right? What were they doing? We said it at the time. We're like, why is this card so hated? Venturing into the Dungeon must be completely insane, and it's not. So that's great. At this point, we literally get Raised Dead plus Venture in the same card. No problems, no discounts, no additional payments necessary. It's just Raised Dead plus Venture.
They've done some wild stuff in these adjustments. They're trying their hardest to make fetch happen with the dungeons. I don't know if it's going to happen. Assemble the Parts appears to be the most relevant of the changes. The one that allows you, it's dropped from 3 to instead of 4, which is a whole turn faster to get your 4/4 Ulamog into play or whatever, what have you.
Right.
But the adjustments down, I felt were like more interesting to me. Furnace Whelp or Fearsome Whelp got the nerf that you guys wanted,
I
which I
called
think was
it.
good. Yep, you called that one.
At the beginning of the upkeep instead of turn. Yep.
And then, of course, Inquisitor Captain got a nerf that I'm not sure most of us saw when the thing came out, but with Glasspool Mimic, you could just get every Inquisitor Captain.
Yeah, you could start chaining them like it was sick.
Yeah, that was a problem.
D-Gen Open, our first place this last week that got the invite was 9-0 with Inquisitor Captain's Mimic. Just trounced it. It was not even close.
I believe it.
The actual sad thing is in the finals that deck was supposed to lose, but the person timed out.
Oh no!
Yeah, they said their client crashed, but that was the only time that deck would have taken a loss in the day, but didn't happen.
Wow!
And then of course Townraiser Tyrant, which both of you two are huge on being way too good, nerfed down to only choosing non-basic lands, which I'm not sure is a huge nerf given the format, but it is something.
I don't think it's way too good. I think it's way too good casting it on 3.
Sure.
That is the combination of the two, it's sort of like my argument to where it's like, is Oko as bad? Or is it because you can once upon a time your Goose and then protect it with Wolf and then you have this insane package that makes it unbeatable? Sure. I think Whelp into Townraiser Tyrant into Townraiser Tyrant into like double Goldspan is just the most disgusting thing you can be doing.
Right, and I just want to blink them at that point because it's so much fun. But Townraiser Tyrant, first of all, do note the R is uppercase now, as it should be.
Oh.
That's a good upgrade. But like the idea that it's non-basic lands only I think is very important because there were games where I would lock my opponent out of one of their colors because I could target their swamps, I could target their plains. And being able to only target their dual lands, I think, is a bit of a nerf that it kind of needed. I still think it's a very good card. It's still exciting. Like, for example, the Inquisitor guy, Inquisitor Captain is basically, I would argue, unplayable at this point. You would look for anything else to do at 4 mana that would gain you some amount of advantage or some really cool trigger. Like, maybe not straight unplayable, but it's not really that good anymore.
No, the attraction isn't there anymore.
Right.
I mean,
the excitement
fact
around
that you could combo out, it used to, now it's not Collected Company anymore.
Right. It's fine. It's not that exciting. So a lot of people are sad about that. Liar Disciple got a during your turn ability. As long as your turn, each instant and sorcery got the so they could stop that silly crap that was driving me insane. But I think a lot of the nerfs are very good and great. The card legality to Fairy went up to 4 mana and 5 loyalty, and your opponents can't cast spells during your turn instead of only at sorcery speed like it was before. Yeah, again, if this is our new Magic, let's go. Let's find the crappy little mechanics that couldn't get there and just hit the gas,
Yeah.
Awesome.
Pretty cool.
I will
say that I do hope if they decide to continue making this many changes. Mm-hmm. So we already have the 20 per set, 20 to 30 new cards per set, which is going to be very money intensive, right? Mm-hmm. Wild cards. Yeah. And they don't come in regular packs. There's no drafting or limited to support these alchemy cards. If they gave us a draft format where it mixed alchemy in with regular draft, that would help solve the problem as well. But if they're not going to do any of that, I hope that they will start to award wild cards for nerfs. Because if they are going to be like, oh, we can just shoot for the moon now with these cards because we have this backup and we can just change things willy-nilly, that's going to hurt Standard. And I think that that's very unfair.
My concern with that point is that I don't want to incentivize R&D to not change things. And that incentivizes them to not change things because it costs something to the company. I'm not exactly sure how to put the dollar amount on it, but it costs something at that point.
Yeah, but I feel like the wild cards are such a drop in the bucket compared to all of the stuff that they are charging. Like, you are the number one person to rant on the show about record-breaking profits. I don't know if 4 wild cards is going to break the bank.
I don't either, but once you go across hundreds of thousands of users, and then again, what happens when they boot, they create a card, that alchemy card, it's stupid, they nerf it, and what if they made it good again? What if they made it a little bit better at that point? You're not going to expect them to take the wild cards back, but at that point they wanted to, we went too far when we, pulled back, so we want to bump it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's still not the card that I crafted.
Right. And you're right. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I just don't want to incentivize R&D not to change stuff. I don't.
There's
I
a
think
middle ground here. There's a middle ground here.
Sure. And Wizards, even today, man, Wizards continued to bring up the economy stream thing that they are promising. I do feel like it's going to change something. I don't know what. But I feel like they're prepping us for something, whether it's dusting or it's buying wild cards from the store or something. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like something is coming in that regard. It just feels like it. So this week, SCG announced forthcoming content.
I'm sorry, who?
StarCityGames.com.
Oh.
They were making some significant changes to their content publishing model. Basically, they are losing, or they are no longer publishing what you would describe as high-level strategy and tournament-related content. And their premium service is no longer going to be offering content, only just some discounts and stuff associated with it. There was a bit of an article came out that noted they're going to try some new article series and some different things in the future. And there was definitely some feelings, obviously, of people, upset or certainly sad that this was happening, and it was sort of an ending of a certain time period in Magic. And I've read a lot of these responses, and and the reasons, and I feel like there's one more level down other than there were just no events, right? I think it's one more. The one more is that when I found Magic, and specifically competitive Magic, I fell in love with the culture of competitive Magic. I fell in love with the friendships that I was making. I fell in love with being able to hang out with these people at these different events. The feeling of making that top 8, of your friend making top 8, of being in that room on that long drive, sleeping in that hotel where you're a little uncomfortable, but you still get to wake up and draft first thing. If you can hit the breakfast bar before your buys and the GP and all this other stuff. That was a whole social construct that happened between people who played competitively. Like Reuben, you understood how it was like to get up early on that Saturday morning and drive 4 hours to the PTQ and do the thing, right? Well, the other part about it is that if you're doing that, if that's part of your life, then the other thing is that you enjoy content about that life. And it wasn't just PV giving you a deck list and a sideboard guide. He would also tell you about his experience of going to that Grand Prix and hanging out with his friends and what they did and what they changed first thing, right? It became more of a social type thing. So you're almost living vicariously while at the same time you're supporting the content that lets you continue that social feel and that social lifestyle. So when competitive Magic didn't just disappear, there were online options and there were online things that happened. The social underlying the binding is gone. And when that social feeling's gone, when that friendship feeling, when that living vicariously feeling leaves, that to me was when the support really pulled back and became just unsustainable. Yeah. So I would note that, the content marketing budgets at other places like CSI are not going down. I spend a whole bunch of money on content marketing with different, aspects and different, focuses that I have with the creators that I work with. And, obviously I wish the best for all those guys, and Lord knows I loved that content. I thought it was great, and I helped support a system that helped make that continue to happen. And, it sucks all around, really, because I think part of it was just you gained friendships and you had feelings and a social, cultural connection with something, and that social cultural connection died. Yeah.
I was ready to disagree with whatever it is you were going to say. I thought you were going to go off on some weird, back in my day, I know everything, no one else knows anything diatribe. But no, you're totally right. The COVID epidemic showed a number of things to everyone. Among the things it showed to some people is it showed to Wizards of the Coast that they were not dependent upon the pro circuit. it showed to Star City Games, among other things, that they were not dependent upon SCG Live or specifically upon the coverage to advertise their tournament series. And it also shone a light on where the crux points of what coverage was depended. And competitive Magic the Gathering players depend on competitive Magic. Shocker. So when there's no events to go to, there's no tournaments to write about, there's no tournament reports. It's as simple as that. Right. I do agree that the audience is still out there. The problem is that the events aren't out there. So until we come to, first of all, I don't believe there is such a thing as a post-COVID world. I think that we're just going to be getting booster shots forever. But once we get to a point where we have we're back to a relative normalcy where we have like the flu shot and the COVID shot. And we have events as normal can get. Then that archetype of coverage and that archetype of website that has that coverage and hires people to write tournament reports, it will come back someday. For this game, if Magic is still around, which there's no reason to believe it wouldn't, or for some other game in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah. Nerd Girl, any further thoughts on this one?
I do think, we talked about it briefly in the pre-show that you wanted to bring this aspect of it, that it's not just the fact that there's no tournaments, right? But I think that what you're hinting at is very similar to the fact that there are no tournaments. I agree that this sense of, fellowship or whatever is gone, but that's because we're not traveling together. We're not doing those things, which, chicken or the egg. I mean, it's basically the same thing. Nobody is wanting to read these event things for these minor tournaments that are held on Melee, things like that, because, big organizers aren't necessarily running Pro Tour stuff. Now, that said, we are starting to see tournaments. Wizards of the Coast is, through the chain, bringing tournaments and entries back to Arena. Now, tournament organizers like DGen Gaming are starting to be able to give away MIQ invites, and next month, my team will be giving away a championship invite. So now we're starting to see a system where they can queue through smaller organizers to get into these big Arena championships. So hopefully that could re-spark, at least in the world of writing, not necessarily in the world of buying singles and product and things, but hopefully in the world of writing that will help kind of boost those economies as far as getting writers back to work.
Well, one of the other aspects of it, and I know this because I ran the thing, is that there became not just a giant tournament series that required, dozens of people to work on it week in, week out. There was also an entire in-store programs, department of the marketing department that would work with stores. Yeah, that would work with stores all over the country to get invites to these events that don't exist anymore. So there were, there's another sort of whole chain of revenue and advertising for the company that does not exist anymore because it can't. So part of what it was advertising was that, SCGIQ stuff. And
we felt a little bit of this here too. I mean, I assume people used to listen to Magic Mike's as a podcast driving to events. That's primarily how I consumed Magic podcasts. Was I would be like, oh, I'm driving to a PTQ 2 hours away. Time to pop on, the bridge, the A-team. Right.
Limited resources,
Magic Mike's. Right. Yeah. This is what I'm listening to. Obviously I start out with the bridge because I'm biased, but, this is my audience. And when there's no drives, there's no reason for me to listen to podcasts if I can sit at home, watch Netflix, right? Like I've got the entirety of the internet, or I can just go for a walk. I'm not stuck in my car.
And luckily, our listenership hasn't fallen that far, if hardly at all, ever since all that went down. So.
We're fortunate because of the specificity of our audience. Mm-hmm. The downside of us not growing as much as I'm getting a little bit inside baseball as Magic Mike's, but the downside of us not growing fast is that we maintain our fans, right? Is that we have a very specific message, and everyone who shows up stays.
Yeah. We appeal to a smaller market, but our market is not dependent upon the pro scene.
Right.
News is news, whether you're an EDH player or you're, and honestly, there's a lot of comments about me saying like, limited is too competitive. I want our EDH host back. And that's fine. Yeah. So like, I can see how this sort of podcast would definitely be able to weather that storm because it's not dependent upon articles and pro tour circuits and any of that nonsense.
Right.
It's just dependent on nonsense.
I do want to go back to something that Nerd Girl said, which was, you have a championship invite?
I do.
Yeah,
can you give me some more details about this?
Yes. So DGen Gaming, we are one of Melee's 7 premier organizers now. Okay. So each month we can give away 8 MIQ, which is the, if you rank in the top 1,200, that nonsense. We have 8 of those each month, and then 1 championship invite as well. Our first one will be for Streets of New Capenna, is the championship we'll be giving away on the 20th.
Nice. Yeah, cool. and while all this is happening, just with the last button on this one, don't go out there and show your whole ass and tell people they shouldn't get paid for writing. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Why does journalism exist?
Did somebody do that?
Apparently so.
Pay for art. Pay for art.
So a lot of the writers were saying, I don't have a job. And they were like, and I can't write anymore. And there were several comments saying like, well, why can't you just write? They'll publish them if you send them to them for free, and you should love the game and want to support it anyway.
No.
Yeah. I also, like I said in the pre-show, I was talking about doing some sort of collective Patreon for writers, so that way writers would have a place to put their work, and it might appeal to a larger audience and get more Patreon dollars, because if you could Patreon for 5 people versus 5 individual Patreons, it's not going to work. And a lot of people were even responding to me saying that we should post them for free. And I was like, wait a minute, DGen Gaming doesn't sell anything. We don't make any products. Like, how will I pay them?
This is stupid. Pay for art. Everyone should pay for art. If someone posts a sideboard guide to their Patreon, don't cheat it.
Don't get with the DM
pay
asking
for
for
things.
Oh my god!
We live in a society, is what I have to say.
In a society.
Buy art, buy things you enjoy, and support creators.
There you go. Including us, patreon.com/magicmics. Now, as we move on to Desperate Ravings, check out our altar sleeves. Support the show by using the code MAGICMICS on altersleeves.com for 5% off anything in the store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mics crew at altersleeves.com/magicmics. All right. It gets weird when you're an artist and people send you stuff to sign. And not necessarily weird, but it can get a little uncomfortable if your queue is backlogged. It takes you a minute. It's kind of hard to get everything organized. I certainly understand. It gets a little more uncomfortable when people are sending you multiple $1,000s worth of cards to sign, and then they don't really hear anything back. And that appears to be happening right now with Rob Alexander, who did most of the dual lands, and people have like beta tundras or taigas just kind of hanging out there for, $2,300 in the Aether, and they send it to him and they haven't heard anything back. And there's a question mark.
Wait, so we think he just disappeared with a bunch of stuff?
They don't know.
You
don't want to like assume the worst in someone who's been a fantastic dude. Yeah. I've met him. I've talked to him. I've interviewed him. He's a great guy. I don't know what's going on, but somebody said after 4+ years, he's had their beta taiga and they want to get it back. And
4 years is a long time.
He's had it for 4 years.
It appears to be 4 years. Which is
it's got to be gone. Like that's lost.
You'd think. So, and again, this is the question of sort of how was this deal set up? I don't know. It's always unfortunate that, they don't want to think there's bad intentions, obviously. And, I assure you, your reputation's not worth burning up for $2,300 or whatever. But yeah, it's just uncomfortable when that stuff happens. So be careful about what you send to artists, if nothing on value alone.
This is an awkward new thing to talk about as a news topic.
It's news.
The first thing
it's news in that someone has gone so far that they have to go, my $2,300 card I sent to an artist.
Sure.
You can send expensive stuff to artists, and you should know that sometimes they're going to get lost. Sometimes
I agree that it's awkward, but also this is just, did we verify the dude on Reddit? Like, have we had any other points of data? Like, I don't want to just bury a well-known and beloved artist's reputation.
Right,
based
which is
on
why
one
I'm saying,
Reddit
I'm not
post.
saying anything nefarious took place here. I thought it was really interesting in that there is, there's a whole system of people send cards to be signed. And there's also, it's difficult to manage that stuff from time to time. I know artists in particular have issues just kind of managing their life from time to time. Sure. And you should know when you send very expensive cards that this might be something that happens. If it's just a mistake, if something gets misplaced, and again,
lost in the mail.
4 years ago, it wasn't worth $2,300. Like,
Right.
It was still worth good money, but it wasn't worth $2,300. So like, things change over time. It's just unfortunate and uncomfortable. And
if the artist has no record of like this type of stuff happening in the past, and they've obviously been a Magic artist forever,
right.
So I would be inclined to believe one of two things: it got lost and they never received it, and the person didn't track or insurance or anything like that. If the person has waited 4 years to really like check tracking and like do a thing, I would be inclined to even venture that before I would say this was stolen, I would say it was never sent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, this person is like, they hoped and believed that things were hectic and there's no bad intentions. And this is the same from us. Like, I think Rob's a terrific dude and I've had nothing but wonderful interactions with him. And I hope this gets resolved. I want to see the thread where, it gets back to him and everything is made right. I don't know where this is. I hesitate to say I don't know where this is news. I want a happy ending. It's so close to not being news. It's close. All right. Well, we've been at it for a while, so let's turn the corner here to the finisher. Now, Nerd Girl was so sure that there were no puppies in the set, only to be gotten by a spiritual companion. It's the brand. So tell me, if you could guarantee what kinds of official previews you'd get from spoiler season, what would you choose as your MO, Reuben?
Well, whenever a card flips coins, rolls D20s, or chooses cards at random, I'd like to get those previews because, as evidenced by my current hair situation, my brand is chaos.
Nerd Girl?
All right. So I miss my doggos, but if I don't get every doggo or pooch, my other brands are red burn spells, white 1-drops, and of course, rogues. Thanks to my sponsor, Rogue Energy. #sponsored.
#sponsored. Now, as noted in the outro to Old Magic shows by one Mr. Kenneth Nagel, quote, "We always like the fatties. So Wizards, if you ever release a mythic 5-drop that does nothing the turn it comes into play, I'm right here.
Yeah.
I'm right here."
No one loves a useless, clunky 5-drop.
Give me the big dumb idiots. Just big dumb idiots. I love them. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Reuben.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com, and Alter Sleeves, my co-hosts, Nerd Girl and Reuben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, and subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mikes Cast, our Magic Mikes subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.